welcome to Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess as always, and it's a pleasure to be here with Sheila Ward. I'm going to introduce Sheila to you in just a moment. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Carpa Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oils, balsamic vinegar, and international teas, and also Vila Basque, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo. So let's welcome Sheila, and I welcome you, audience, to be with us tonight. Sheila, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Carol.
You know, it's always interesting to me, Sheila, that so often the guests on this program are kind of like neighbors to me, and yet sometimes they're strangers, but every single woman that has been on this program has been delightful in one way or another to get to know. And I just know that as a mother of 5, you've got a lot to say. So help us understand, where do you come from originally, Sheila?
I am from Carson City.
Ah.
And I come from a family that has been in Carson City since 1850. We've been in politics and ranching.
Politics and ranching. As a little girl, I played a lot of cowboys and Indians, but never on a real ranch and never in Nevada. Tell us how you were brought up as a child on a ranch. With brothers and sisters, or no? Yes,
well, when I was 2 years old, my grandmother died. And we lived on a house in King Street, where I was born in Reno, but lived there. And so then my grandfather, Ira Winters, was not well, so we moved to the ranch house.
Here in Carson? Okay.
And it's at the end of Richmond Street, West Richmond. There, plenty of bedrooms.
Oh yes, plenty of space. What do you remember as a child living on a ranch, growing up on a ranch? Did it seem to you that was how every child lived, or did you know that it was rather a unique experience?
In Carson City, it was unique because the end of our property, which was just a short drive, was the Carson City city limits. So it was just, a fourth of a mile to walk to Carson Street.
Okay.
But I remember a lot of streets were not paved at that time.
Were they dirt? Were they gravel?
Dirt, I think.
Dirt.
Carson Street was paved, I think.
All right. But we're talking about the 50s, the 40s?
40s.
In the 40s, okay. All right. Now, at that time, in the 40s, going back, of course, now and reflecting, what was the acreage like for an average ranch compared to today?
Ours was pretty small.
All righty.
It was all west of, now Richmond Street. It was all west of that, north and west.
Okay.
The high school, my dad gave part of their property for the high school, and that was the end of the property.
So he was a large contributor to the future of Carson City by giving that land for the high school. That's wonderful.
And then there was property over Lakeview.
Yes.
We call it Lakeview. And but cattle were taken up to Marlette, Hobart for summer pasture.
Besides cattle, what else was raised on the ranch?
Well, we had, in the 50s, my dad bought a little ranch, more like a farm in Dayton. It was the, oh my gosh, I can't even think of it. But
that's okay, it'll come later.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it will.
He bought a small ranch in the Dayton area.
So we had pigs, chickens, we had chickens, lambs at the home.
All right.
On Richmond.
And you married into a ranching family, is that correct?
I did.
Was that, did you plan that, or that just happened? Or was
that happened.
Okay, and who did you marry?
His name is Sam Ward, and he grew up on a ranch in the Yakima Valley, and it was really a huge ranch. In fact, part of it is now the firing range for the National Guard.
All right.
But it was dry wheat.
Yes.
And then they had hops, actually, was there.
For brewing into ale and beer, okay.
And
that
one
made
of
a lot
the
of people
few
happy.
hops ranches there, and it was very, very productive, very profitable.
Yes, yes.
And plus a cattle feedlot.
All right. What's it like growing up as a wife on a ranch? I know that you eventually had 5 children. Did all those children grow up with you on the ranches as well?
No, when we married,
Yes.
we didn't live on the ranch.
Where did you go?
We lived in Seattle, and Sam, although he grew up on a ranch, he realized that he got an education in a different way.
Yes,
He did
yes.
not want to be digging fence holes
Okay.
for fences. And by that time, his dad was out of it also.
All right.
So it was mainly real estate. Now he's a real estate appraiser, so he's had his own business in Carson City for over 30 years. He's
Long
well
time.
known.
Yes,
He probably
well-
knows more people than I do.
So is that what brought you back into Carson City eventually, was for Sam to establish his own business in real estate?
Not quite. After 7 years of marriage, we came to visit my folks.
Yes.
He worked for a company that it was real estate, but it was half the year, the winter in Seattle, the summer in near Spokane, a little place called Medical Lake. By this time, we had 2 children. We thought one was beginning to be, he was going to be 5. We need to decide where we were going to live because of
Yes,
school.
yes.
We came to visit here. My mom, I didn't know she was going to be gone a whole month to be with a sister up in Seattle, taking care of her family. So we stayed a month, and my dad says, well, you can sell real estate here in Carson City too. We ended up moving.
Okay.
So it was,
So he brought you right into the business with him eventually, right? Or you helped start it out.
well, kind of, but then we had 3 more children.
And that took care of that. Okay,
that took
right.
that.
Plans have to go where they're most needed, all right? I understand that. So, Sheila, in our previous conversations as we've been talking, you indicated that education was really a very special interest in your heart, and it's never gone away. How do you mean that?
Well, I started because our kids went to St. Teresa's school, so I was always volunteering like a lot of parents were. Although since I didn't work, I realized I had a service in a way. I could be at the schools longer. Plus, when parents needed help with their kids, I was available.
Right, right.
But I began to be political even then. I don't know. Well, now I know where it came from. It came from my genes, I think.
Okay, it's just kind of born in you, yes.
But
yes.
I protested when I felt a movie was incorrect showing to 8th graders, and I found out that I thought that all movies at particularly a Christian school should be G-rated. So I asked my daughter to come out of it, and she did. I was unhappy with the sex education. I had lobbied against it, and it still got into the schools. And so I asked my son at that time, the 3rd child, who I asked to sit down so he wasn't,
Towering.
towering above me. I asked him to skip that class, and he did. I knew the teacher was a little odd. She had some very strange ideas.
All right, so in order for our audience to catch up kind of with what we're talking about, you're saying that as your children went into school and you gave them private school or Catholic school rather than public school, okay, and those are decisions that parents always have to make and go through, I know. Then as your children entered the private atmosphere of a Catholic school, new ideas are starting to crop up, not only in public, but in private schools as well. And one of those, and I remember it as a teacher very much, the new teaching of sex education, the new teaching or introduction of movies that were other than a G rating. And you think you're safe as a parent, as a grandparent, but especially as a parent, that this rating will be here for the next 50 years. And that's not how it happens, is it? So you took a very active interest in every child's class, teacher, curriculum, etc. Now, in those years that you were advocating for a more, can I say conservative? Okay, for a more conservative presentation in class, how did that go? Were you able to make some inroads that were significant? Did you have a lot of resistance? Did you have a lot of encouragement or help from other parents? How did that work out?
I think in the beginning I didn't collaborate with other parents.
Okay.
But when I did become a PTA member and an officer and even president when the kids started going, because St. Teresa's only went through 8th grade.
Okay, so you had to make some very important decisions after 8th grade. Where are the children going to go now?
Well, in Carson, there's not too many choices.
Okay, so they went into public school.
They did.
Okay, now the foundation, were you, as a parent, feeling fairly good, comfortable? I don't know whether I should use the word comfortable, but did you feel that your children had received a foundation that if they go into another system, their head's on straight with some of the things they're going to hear and see?
I did believe that.
Okay.
We were church going, and even though, and I even taught, so our kids even went to a Christian school, the Catholic school. I actually taught CCD to the kids that didn't go to the school, you know, the public students.
Right.
So, and I also, for a Catholic, it was a little different to begin to read the Bible, so I was reading the Bible all the time.
Okay.
Talking about to the kids.
All right, now you mentioned that you became political. What does that mean? Was this during the early years of the children's education, or did this kind of come out of you? You feel like you were really born to be somewhere as a political activist. When did that start?
That was kind of a discovery, but just because of my activism with the PTA and just wanting some say.
Yes.
I actually, when my first lobbying at the legislature was a education committee, they were deciding about sex education.
Here in Nevada or in Carson County?
City.
Carson City. All right.
And I was president of my PTA at the Carson Middle School. The state PTA had decided that they were for the bill.
Okay. Meaning for the bill, meaning that they were for
the sex education in the public schools.
Okay, a new approach.
And I learned about it through a friend of mine who was a PTA president at a different elementary school in Carson.
Okay.
And she had gone to the state conference in Las Vegas, and it took a huge effort on her part to get parents there. It turned out that the parents had voted no. But in the middle, or not, I wouldn't say the middle of the night, but later, the officers, you know, the state officers got together and they voted yes. And that really riled me. So it gave me enough courage to testify, except when I got there, and then you see all these people sitting at this desk, and you have to go down to a table like this and speak through a microphone. And
to all of them.
It probably took hours for me to get in front. But I want to make this point. The gal that, our state PTA president, gave her testimony, and then she left. And I thought, you're not supposed to testify. And I knew that, but I was determined. So I thought, this is my opportunity. So I went up and testified. And
about what?
Against the bill. I did not want sex education in the public schools.
Okay, and that took place exactly where? Here in Carson City?
Yes, in the committee room.
In the committee room.
In fact, I think it was a joint committee for the Assembly and the Senate. Sometimes they meet together.
And before we close this first half, what you have just stated, Sheila, is really, it was a turning point in your life, because you're going to find out very quickly advocates as well as those who are going to be opposing you in family ships, friendships, and community ships. And that's a biggie. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Beds of the Homeless is a non-profit, all-volunteer organization that provides pet food and veterinary care to the homeless and less fortunate in local communities.
With donations from the public, we're able to provide homeless shelters with crates, bowls, cleaning materials, so that homeless with pets can come into homeless shelters and get the services that they need to get out of homelessness.
A fire-adapted community is prepared to survive a wildfire with little or no firefighter assistance. To help prevent ignition by embers, remove dead and dying plants from around your home. Be sure to remove low-hanging branches and the flammable plants underneath your trees, also known as ladder fuels. Non-flammable plants and pathways create separation and help prevent fire from spreading to your home. Make it lean, clean, and green.
Visit livingwithfire.info for more tips to save your home.
Welcome back to the second half of our program, Women to Women. As usual, I'm Carol Paz. I'm here with Sheila Ward, and we have a feisty little tigress with us tonight. It's amazing how a very petite, calm, relaxed, but highly energized inside woman can become a fighting force when it's her children that she's protecting. And sometimes our husbands see whole different sides of our personality when our children are involved. So welcome back, Sheila.
Thank you.
Now, Sheila, you have just shared with us that you testified in front of a government committee here in Carson City about the introduction of sex education into the public classroom. And when you take a step like that, which is one of utter courage, if you've never done it before, and most of us haven't, and you're acting on behalf of many parents, Sheila, it's not just you in there, but you're representing so many people. There have to be consequences. There have to be results that change your life in many ways. How did this experience work in terms of your personal life, work in terms of your public life, work in terms of education? What happened as a result of all of this? What happened in your personal life, for example?
My personal life probably didn't change much. I
Okay.
was still at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a cook, a baker, and grew with the kids.
A candlestick maker.
Yeah. Actually, I did do a lot of, because my degree was actually in costume design, totally different from what I ended up doing.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Was the support of your husband always behind you? Because you had mentioned that you have two very distinctive personalities in conversations we had before. Did he see what you were trying to do, and did he support and encourage that?
He did.
That's
he
wonderful.
allowed me to do a lot.
Okay, and when it came to your public life, did you have any reverse friendships? Did you lose people that you thought had been friends? Did you gain new advocates? What happened there?
I didn't lose friends, and I did gain advocates. I actually found out that there are I wasn't an organization, but there were people who found out about me, I guess, because then they wanted me to, since I'm in Carson City and I can practically walk to the legislature, they're in Las Vegas and Reno, specifically Eagle Forum, family oriented, and then Nevada Concerned Citizens was another one. So I really did start doing things for them.
So as a result of your testifying why you did not want this new sex education program in the public school system, did it make a difference to those people that you testified before?
That one committee, I don't think they passed it then, but it obviously came in later.
But there was a delay, a tactical delay, for probably more debate, more discussion. Now, with it entering the public schools, as it did all over the United States for the most part, I was in New York at the time and had to make some very important decisions as an instructor, as a teacher. I was a 5th grade teacher.
Okay.
And that's where it really came into full force. So I understand what you're talking about. How did it play out in your family? How did you and your children and your husband as a family work with this new concept that was brought into public schools? How did you handle that?
My one daughter, so the two older children, because there's 15 years difference between.
Okay, quite a difference.
2 came and then there was 6 years, so it's like 2 families. The 2 older ones never faced it. It was the next
generation of children in your family that did.
Basically.
Okay.
And they only had one day, one classroom, and that's when I asked George not to
attend,
and he was good.
Okay.
And then and then Elizabeth was out, and for some reason I don't remember the middle one. What happened?
Probably listening to the older one and to the younger one saying, where am I on this, okay? I'll follow you, George. So as a consequence, as a result, your family was able to talk these things through, and they had enough respect for you as a parent, because when youngsters come in contact with that word sex education, those 2 words, there's a curiosity, there is a natural rise in them of assertion. I want to hear this, Mommy. I want to be a part of this. All my friends are. There's a lot of pressure that comes to bear on a parent, as well as on some of the siblings. And some of them are just plain afraid of that kind of a discussion at that point in their lives. But your families seem to work through it and to work together as a unit. Now, did your political activism fall upon your oldest children or your youngest children to kind of say, gee, Mommy never took on this task before. I like it. I'm really proud of her. What can I do to help her? What can I do to get involved? Do you have any children at all that are political activists today?
No.
No, none.
None.
And do you think that there was a bearing on what you went through that made them feel that way or decide not to be yet?
I should ask them. I don't know. My youngest would say, Mom, it seems like, nothing bothers you. And it didn't. I just was so determined.
Okay.
But I had, like I said earlier, I did have support. And so there were a lot others, wanting to. So.
All right. What do you think, Sheila? Do you believe that when it comes to parenting, father or mother, do you believe that you were a child of divorce very young and don't remember the divorce. At 2, you would have if any memories of it. So were you determined that this marriage of yours would have to last? Did you ever take a look at divorce as an alternative?
I didn't, but I did make the decision that divorce was out of my vocabulary. And there were times, I know, we fought, and I thought we'd be, 2 ranching people and
2 ranching
totally
families.
different.
Okay. Okay. So what did you learn, Sheila? You came from, when I say from the ground, from ranching, okay, which is one of the hardest, most committed forms of work that people can support and be a part of. Because the whims of nature, the diseases that can attack livestock, you're at the peril of many different things. And yet you persevere. You're an amazing group of people, ranchers. Do you think that background in ranching between both your husband and yourself had anything to do with the commitment in marriage?
I think so. Well, my friends in high school were off in the summer. I was raking hay down in Dayton, getting up, but my dad wouldn't necessarily, he'd have to wait and see because the hay has to be, it can't be too wet, it can't be too dry. So he would wake me up, say, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't know the night before.
Okay.
But I would get up and we'd eat breakfast at the Nugget and go on down, and I'd be on the tractor at dawn, and I'd work until. So I think that was a commitment. It never dawned on me ever to say no.
To your father or to what he was asking you to do. Do you think that you had a sense of responsibility, even at that time, toward your family? Not just the family name, but you were working as a team, and that word teamship carries over into other areas of our lives, doesn't it?
And I think in this marriage.
Okay.
Yes.
So for your children now, what ages are they? They range in age from what to what?
Currently, 44, 42, let's see, 30, what's 6 from 40, 36.
Okay.
Then 33 and 29.
And you said your 29-year-old is the last one now to be married in when? 2 weeks, 2 months?
July 14th.
July 14th, very shortly. All right. So Sheila, with this last one getting married in just a couple of weeks, so to speak, do you think you'll ever have an empty nest?
No.
Not ever. Why not? I mean, what is it? And I'm sure it has to do absolutely with you and Sam having this solidarity in a marriage that the kids, parents provide such a security. 2 parents, husband and wife, mom and dad, provide a framework that kids don't even stop to think about as they're growing up, but it's there. And they still don't want to give it up as adults. Is there some place that these kids come to you? I mean, What are they not willing to give up that you can call it an empty nest now?
Well, in the summer, they come for 2 weeks. And that started in 85 when 19...
To your home? All of them come to your home?
No.
Where?
They grew up in a very small home. I mean,
Okay.
it had 4 bedrooms at least, but crowded.
All right. And 5 children,
5
2 adults.
children.
And as they got married, grandchildren.
Yes, we have 10.
All right. And in-laws, sons-in-laws, daughters-in-laws. So where do they all come to? What place?
In the summer, it's at Zephyr Cove, a house
Okay.
that we were able to purchase after all
wonderful.
these years. It is absolutely wonderful. We all don't actually fit into it. We still rent a place. But it's 2 weeks so that they can at least get, everybody's there for at least a weekend.
Yes.
Because
yes.
you've got husbands that are still working.
Of course, of course. So when you're all together at Zephyr Cove, up at Lake Tahoe, what do you talk about? What do the kids bring up? Have the kids ever said, Mom, that time when you were in front of government officials, this is what was going through my mind. Or this is what I think of it now. How do they feed back on that?
They don't.
They ignore
don't.
it completely?
Yeah.
They still stay away from that time. That's
do.
interesting. You must have accomplished something there.
Well, sometimes it's distressing. You know, I want to talk about politics. In fact, I mix politics and a religion that is just like this.
How do you do that? That's an interesting...
Well, I think Jesus was political, spiritual.
Okay.
He came and changed the world, obviously.
He obviously did.
But my real energy, I think, went into bringing in a Christian perspective to these different issues.
That was missing in the public school system. Well, your kids must have thought, Mom did such a whale of a job. There's nothing left for us to step in and take care of. You know, that's an interesting statement. I think it's possible. We hear from the world, we hear from all around us that you have to keep faith, religion, out of government. And yet we are looking for leadership that has a sense of morality, that has a sense of strength, inner strength. And you call upon your faith. I call upon my faith, which is the same faith as Christian. And it's great to know, Sheila, even through all of the stresses of raising 5 children, and they're all different, same parents, 5 different personalities, that you can come back as a family unit and still have that love and respect for one another. That's rare today. Functional families are rare. Dysfunctional families we hear a lot about, and it's not that there's no future for them, there absolutely is, but it's refreshing to have someone on the air who says, okay, it was in me, my kids brought it out. The issue of my kids being brought in front of a public forum of sexual debate really got to me, and I decided to take action, and you did. And it's a big step of courage. And I would just say to our viewers out there this evening, whether you have children or not, if you have grandchildren, if you have nieces and nephews, to a great extent their future is in your hands. And so it's good food for thought. When you feel very strongly about something, there's usually a reason inside of you for that feeling to be there. So we just thank you for listening. We look forward to next week. And again, we say thank you to Sheila. Thank you to our sponsors, Copper Nevada LLC, importers of fine Portuguese olive oil, balsamic vinegars, and international teas, as well as Little Basque, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo here in Carson City. So until we meet next week, have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.